Hey guys, my name's Clev, and in this DCS F-4E tutorial, we're going to be covering how to use and employ the Countermeasures and Jammer pod. The AN ALE40 can be installed on the inner pylons and is done so automatically in the following dispenser configurations when you rearm. 120 chaff, 60 flares and 30 chaff, 90 chaff and 15 flares, or 30 flares only. Before employing countermeasures, we will either ourselves or through Jester want to configure the rear seat cockpit control unit for countermeasures. That can be found here on the left. The cockpit control unit is installed on the left console of the rear cockpit. It consists of 2 mode knobs, 2 counters, and 2 indicator lights, one for chaff and one for flares, as well as a guarded ripple switch and a dispense button. Let's begin with the chaff mode knob. With the chaff mode knob set to off, no dispensing of chaff will occur and the light will extinguish. With the chaff mode knob set to single, a single chaff will be dispensed. With the chaff mode knob set to multiple, chaff will be dispensed according to the chaff burst settings of the front seat. With the chaff mode knob set to program, chaff will be dispensed according to the burst and salvo settings of the front seat. Coming down to the flare mode knob, if the flares are in the normal position, that is set up front, and flaps and speed brakes are retracted, the 3 positions of this knob will function as follows. With the mode knob set to off, there will be no dispensation of flares. With the mode set to single, a single flare will be dispensed. With the mode set to program, flares will be dispensed according to the flare burst setting set up front. The WSO can press the dispense button to manually dispense flares or chaff himself. In case of emergency, the guarded ripple switch can be activated. When the guard is lifted and the switch is activated, it will initiate flare dispensing regardless of the position of any other switches or mode knobs in the countermeasure system. That is assuming that the speed brakes and flaps are retracted. The flares will be dispensed at a rate of 10 flares per second until both left and right pylon dispensers are empty. Let's step back into the pilot seat. Let's open the Jester menu and take a look at how we can specify what we want his countermeasure settings to be. Let's open the Jester control wheel, come down to Systems, and you'll see we have chaff mode options and flare mode options. We can also ask Jester to jettison the flares and activate or deactivate the jammer. We'll come back to this later. As the pilot, coming down to our left-hand side, we have our countermeasure programmer for the AN ALE40. It's important to note that a burst is a single impulse sent to the dispenser which will cause the dispensation of a certain amount of countermeasures, while a salvo is a series of bursts. The amount of chaff dispensed per burst can be adjusted with this knob. The chaff burst interval knob will set the interval in tenths of a second between each burst. The chaff burst salvo count knob will determine how many salvos there are, with C being continuous just like with the weapon's release. The chaff salvo interval knob sets the interval between each salvo, with the max setting of R indicating random. Just below, we have the flare burst count switch and the flare burst interval switch. Coming down to the right, we have the flare select switch. With the switch in the normal position, it arms the countermeasure dispenser system, and it allows for chaff and flares to be dispensed as set by the CCU and the programmer between both cockpits by pressing either dispense button. With the flare select switch set to flares, it only affects the front cockpit dispense button by ignoring all switches and knobs in the countermeasure system, provided that the flaps and speed brakes are retracted. This allows the pilot to dispense a single flare each time he presses the dispense button. Rear cockpit dispense functions are unaffected by the switch position. This amber light indicates any time that the switch is set to flares. If we set it back to normal, it should extinguish. This green light The AN ALE40 power on indicator light will illuminate when at least one of the chaff and flare mode knobs on the CCU is in any other position than off. That is set in the back seat. With the following settings, let's go ahead and test our dispenser. And that seems to be working pretty well. The Phantom can be equipped with ECM pods capable of jamming radar signals to protect it from getting tracked by other aircraft or radar-guided missiles. Located to the right of your radar display in the WSO cockpit is your ECM control panel. We have one panel for each ECM pod that can be loaded onto the aircraft, left and right. However, in DCS, loading more than one pod will not have any effect. To begin, let's power on both pods, which will begin a 3-minute warm-up. Once powered on and after a 3-minute warm-up, your standby light should illuminate. To begin jamming, switch the mode from standby to transmit. You should notice a light indicate next to transmit. In real life, certain pods were capable of multiple profile jamming. This would be activated by going to the both position. However, in DCS, this isn't modeled, and both will function just like the transmit function. Coming back to the front seat, we can ask Jester to enable the system by going to Systems, going to Jammer, and telling Jester to transmit.
Roger.
We can also go right back and ask him to put it back to standby.
Got it.
And that'll be all for this DCS F-4E tutorial. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe if I've helped you out. Thanks for watching. Plev out.